Made their own boat.
So who's this?
My grandpa Smith.
He ran away when he was how old?
He ran away from home when he was a kid. Him and another kid. You know, they were poor, just they had nothing anyway.
Uh-huh.
So they ran away from home, lived on an island for a while. They just took a sack lunch and they left from there.
So how long do they live by themselves?
I don't know how long they lived there, but my grandpa ended up, I don't know, being a carpenter. You know, he owned a store. He owned a grocery store and rented boats and fishing, sold fishing tackle and everything on a lake. Ended up when he married my grandma. And I don't know the whole story, but
work in their house
and he told about the conservation officer coming after this guy, and the guy come pulling up there with his boat, and he had rented the boat to a guy, and the conservation officer was after the guy, and he come running up there. And let me think. No, the guy come running up there. The conservation was out there shooting ducks or something, out of season or something. And he come up there in his boat, and then run up to the store where my grandpa was in the store. And one of my grandpa wanted to buy a boat and everything was in it. So my grandpa bought the boat and everything was in it, and the guy took off. And pretty soon the conservation officer come up there and wanted to know about that boat down there at the dock and blah, blah. My grandpa said, well, it's my boat. He said, well, how long have you owned it? Well, it doesn't matter how long I've owned it and all blah, 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 you know. And he said, well, where's the guy that brought it up here to you?
It's Revere.
He said, what guy? And anyways,
All right, Papa.
make a long, things were different back then.
Yeah.
You know. Anyways, it ended up the conservation officer had to leave because my grandpa
Oh, part of it's missing.
owned the
Go
boat.
give it to
And
Uncle
everything that was in it,
Part
all
of
the
it's
fishing,
missing,
tackle,
Eli.
everything was in it.
Yeah, the part of
My
the
grandpa owned it because he bought it from the guy.
Huh.
He was telling me about it.
What's the story about? I was trying to tell this to Leah the other day. I couldn't remember. What's the story about? I think it was your dad and the tank plant.
My dad was a foreman at the tank.
Yeah, but the story about him rotating the turret with the
Yeah,
guy.
when they closed the tank plant after the war. So
Right.
when they went to reopen it again, why my dad went to Detroit to see to General Motors or the governor or somebody, because he had been a foreman over the test track where they tested the tanks after they were built. My dad was the foreman over the men that tested the tanks. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So my dad went to Detroit to see somebody that he knew he wanted to get a job in that plant when they opened it. And because he had been in it while they hired him, he got a job by going to Detroit.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so he was in there when they were opening the plant, and there were still some old tanks sitting in there.
They were opening it as a car plant.
They were opening it to make tanks again,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess, I don't know.
Okay.
But anyways, he said there was a black guy in there, up on a ladder, going around watching, you know, the old plants had windows all over,
Right.
you know.
Like
This
Bristol
guy-
Road had. Yeah.
This guy was inside washing windows. So my dad got in a tank and turned the turret and placed the gun towards the guy, pointed that gun towards the guy, and the guy happened to turn around and look and see that gun come around and point at him. And he said he didn't wash very many windows, and he got down and moved his ladder. And so my dad said, I just stayed right there in the tank. He said, I waited till he moved his ladder, got back up on that ladder and washed a few windows, he said, and then I turned the turret towards him and pointed the gun at him again. He said, well, long, he got done and left, didn't come back.
So how did your dad? So he was working at the tank factory, but you said he worked for Firestone or something, right?
At one time, he was a manager for Firestone.
In-
Firestone owned their own gas stations.
But you said he came from Kalamazoo or someplace.
No, we lived in Traverse City, and we lived in Muskegon, and then they opened up the new Firestone store up on North
Muskegon. That's right.
Saginaw, like Detroit Street, up in that area. Saginaw Street. Anyways, they opened up the new Firestone gas station up there, and they moved my dad, because we were originally from Flint, so they transferred my dad here to help open up the new business there. We got the first refrigerator,
Eli.
Firestone refrigerator, and the first Firestone
Eli.
sewing machine sold here in Flint.
Eli.
So
all kinds of stuff.
but then he also worked. You said he worked as a mechanic too, right?
He was a mechanic.
So was that at the Firestone or was that someplace
No,
else?
when he was killed is after they opened up the tank plant.
Okay.
And he was out there when he was killed in a car wreck.
And what?
He went from being a mechanic, he had his own place over on Fenton Road, and he found out they were gonna open the
Oh,
plant
okay.
again. So my dad went to Detroit to see somebody. I don't remember who. If he went to the government office, or if he went to General Motors, I don't know where he went. But anyways, so he went there to see about getting a job back with General Motors, told him who he was, and they hired him, he got back in again.
So
And they needed a general foreman. He was out there for, when they opened up, they needed a general foreman. So they made my dad the general foreman. And 2 weeks later, he was killed in a car wreck.
wow, that quick, huh?
So
So
that's
where did the car wreck happen?
out on M15, out by Goodrich.
Okay. But did somebody? How did it happen?
Well, my mother was driving.
Oh, I thought you two were in the front seat.
I was in the front seat. My mother was driving. I was beside her in the front seat. My dad was behind me, and my sister was behind my mother. And when we got in the wreck, the car hit us right here by me, by the doorpost.
Uh huh.
My dad was sitting behind me, and it didn't stand a chance, you know. It just a big old '49 Buick. That's one of the biggest Buicks ever made. We went a '49 Buick 4-door, and I went through the windshield. That's why I have that scar
Yeah.
out there.
Huh.
And they said I even took the paint right off the hood when you know, older cars had windshields
Right.
like this. You know,
Right.
You went up. That's where I hit my head over the windshield, snapped my head back, but I still went through the windshield and across the hood. And they said they actually took paint off the hood when I went
Wow.
across the hood.
Were you in the hospital?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I couldn't even. That happened in just after school opened, September or something. Like, was school in the fall open, and they wouldn't let me go back to school till the second semester, which is what, into January, February. I couldn't go to school.
Wow. Do you remember much of it, or?
I remember. I don't even remember the wreck. I don't remember. None of that's gone. That's all gone.
Yeah.
I remember waking up in the hospital. You know where that golf course is out in Goodrich?
Mm.
And then there's a big apartment house right next to it right now.
Yep.
That was a hospital. Believe it or not, that little apartment house was a hospital
Huh.
at one time. And that's where we ended up,
So.
in that building.
Huh.
And I was in the same room with the guy that killed my dad.
Really? So he run a red light or something?
No, we were going down Goodrich Road, down M15, and it was night, dark, and my mother, and it was a truck ahead of us. This is what I'm told.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember.
Right.
Anyways, she pulled out to go around that truck. There was nobody coming, so she was going to go around this slow-moving truck. But there's a drunk guy coming in a black car with no headlights on. And when she saw him, of course she's going around the truck like this, we're heading south. She tried to get off the road and get out of the way, and that car hit right here.
So.
And we ended up at that hospital in Goodrich, which was by the golf course. It's just an old apartment house now, but that was a hospital.
Other than your dad, was anybody else hurt? Were your sister?
My mother ended up somehow underneath the steering wheel, all scrunched up down underneath between the seat and the steering wheel.
Huh.
She had a scar on her forehead too, and hurt her knee or something. My sister was thrown out across the highway, and my dad was
Pinned? Yeah.
smashed up in the back seat.
Huh.
Right
Wow.
down by Coolidge Road on M15.
Wow. Yeah, Grandma had a hard life after that, huh? Because she had to go to work, right? After that, it was. Yeah.
She got a job out there at the tank plant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my dad was just got the job of being general foreman.
And that was on Saginaw Street.
Huh?
That was on Saginaw Street.
That's out there where Walmart and all that.
Yeah, yeah,
that GM
yeah,
plant
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
And so they hired her.
Okay. Yep, you go in the basement.
They hired her into the plant as some kind of secretary or something like that.
Just to help her out.
I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. I was 13,
Yeah.
14 years old. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know. But anyway, that's the way it is. That's how I got that.
I never noticed it.
But when I go like that,
Yeah.
then you can see it.
A car.
Huh.
It broke my head open in the back. See, it's like it hitting an egg. They said you hit one place and it cracked my head open in the back.
Yeah, lucky you didn't have any permanent damage.
They wouldn't even let me out of bed for a while. I don't know. It was a long, long time. They did things different.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't even let me out of bed. I couldn't even get out of bed and go to the bathroom.
Really?
Oh, no.
Wow.
Fraser's daughter, remember?
Huh.
Fraser's daughter, they did that, but she was in her teens. And they did that, they put a rod.
I should have been dead lots of
She
times.
stands very, very straight like this.
Here you are.
But
I'm glad you
they
weren't,
weren't sure
I'm
she.
still here.
or I wouldn't be here. It's that close.
I almost drowned once.
How'd that happen?
Almost drowned twice, really. But Len and I almost drowned up there in Alaska. We just come that close of being drowned. Goodness.
It's an aggravation, let's put it that way.
Yeah, you know, her dad could sit
Oh,
behind you.
Yeah, I was trying to tell Leah that tank story the other day, and I couldn't remember exactly how it went. And I was like, I have to ask Grandpa about that story.
My dad was
Yeah.
the form row,
Yeah.
the test track.
Yeah.
And they had while the guys were waiting for the tanks, you know where the deaf school is?
On Miller Road.
Yeah, the old deaf school. They used to test the tanks behind that on that creek along there.
Oh, Swartz Creek.
Yeah, they used to test, they
Well,
had
before Southwestern was there.
before South.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had a big barn, big buildings and stuff. That was all General Motors property. And they tested the tanks, water tested them, and they run up down that through the creek and the mud and everything. They could
What
find.
created that big hill at Southwestern?
What's that? The one
The kids sled down and stuff by the football field. What made that? Was it man-made, that hill?
oh, football, that was
That's from that creek. From
well, I mean, when they put Southwestern in, they just went ahead and now the flat area down there, but that used to be for the creek washed out for years and years and years.
Wow.
the glacier.
Yeah, glaciers, whatever, you know. So, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, my dad was run that thing down there. And they had a piece of plywood, half inch, maybe 3/4 inch plywood. And when the guys were waiting for the tanks to come out, and then they would test them, they would sit and play checkers. And they had this piece of plywood. They set it on their knees. It was about 8 inches too long on both ends for the checkerboard that they made.
Uh-huh.
And they would sit out there in their chairs and put that on their knees and play checkers between two guys to play checkers, you know. Anyways, when they after the war they closed the plant, my dad brought that home. I had that checkerboard out of that.
Man, that's a broken rib.
What are we gonna call it? That barn or what
Uh-huh.
it was that General Motors owned there that tested tanks. We had that checkerboard for years and years and years. And we played checkers.
Huh.
And I don't know what happened to it. I can't for the life of me remember. Probably one time with my mother, we moved or something
Yeah.
like that, and they got left behind, you know. Anyways, we had that checkerboard, and I played checkers on it.
Huh.
I've got a plaque at home about like that. It's got a tank on it.
Oh, yeah?
My dad's name on it for his contribution to the war effort. Blah 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 blah. Signed by whoever was ahead of that, you know, like we did when we were down there. You know, you could look around and make money for finding something you thought was wrong, or could make something better or something. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, like an improvement plan thing, or improvements or
Anyways,
whatever.
my dad put in a suggestion award.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad put in one, something to do with the tanks. Okay,
that, but tell her
and that's
why.
what he got. That's
Because
all he
then
got
you're
was
gonna
that.
end up with this bad
I got it
polish
at home.
short.
It's got a tank on it with all these people's signatures on it. I got it at home.
Huh.
You just need to tell her
Someplace.
this bottom section.
I still got that.
Yeah.
I've seen it, you know. It's an award my dad got for some suggestion he made during the war.
Uh huh.
I got that on.
Huh.
And his garage where he repaired cars, earned his living, was on Fenton Road.
Yeah, what?
And when I was a little kid, I played baseball. I got the spikes and got a shirt. You know, you're supposed to get a sponsor, and the
Uh-huh,
sponsor supposed to buy your shirt and your glove and everything. Well, that was my dad. And I got this yellow and blue long sleeve shirt at home.
You still have it?
I think it's a Smith's Garage,
Oh yeah.
3906 or something like that, Fenton Road.
That's cool.
So that was my sponsor, you know, my dad, you know. You had to get a sponsor to get on the team,
Uh-huh.
you know, to buy your shirt
Uh-huh.
and everything. I think I probably still got that shirt
Huh.
home in a drawer.
That's neat.
30, I can't remember that, 3906 or something like that.
Huh.
Sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the shirt in a long time and looked at it, you know what I mean? But it was my dad's garage.
Uh huh.
He was my sponsor for the baseball. And I went down to All Sports to get a baseball mitt.
I know, but I mean, because of the COVID, she
And back then,
If
if you spent $6 or $7 for a ball mitt, you got a good one. And I
I
went down there, picked one out, and I wanted a Rawlings. That's
Uh-huh.
an old name.
Yeah,
And I wanted one. And my dad went with me down there. He didn't want to, but he did. And to spend all that money for just a kid's ball mitt to play ball, you know, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
He finally coughed up the $6 or $7. And I don't know how I got my spikes, but I managed to get some spikes. He
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
buy them. I don't remember how
Not
I got
now.
them. Can't remember.
Travis, it's no.
But I managed to get some spikes.
Playing our game.
Did you enjoy it? Playing? Do you remember?
Not, I did, but I did. Sports had never been a
Yeah.
passion, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Even when I went to school, if I could skip gym and do something else, I would.
Yeah.
I didn't much care for it. I remember they used to have these competition between the schools. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Broad
Like
jumps,
scrimmages
you
and
know,
stuff,
hurdles
or like field day or something.
hurdles and dashes and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah.
And you used to do all that stuff, competition in just before school was out in the
Uh-huh.
spring, you know. And they put me on the hurdles, and they put me on the 50-yard dash, I think. And I got a second place ribbon in the 50-yard dash. I remember that when I was in third, fourth grade or something like that, you know. I don't know what happened to the ribbon. I had that around for a while. I don't know what happened to it. There's all kinds of things, you know. I don't remember what happened to that ribbon.
Yeah.
All I know is I got a ribbon. It was all this like citywide thing, you know. All the schools would be in competition.
Right.
You know, they get their best athletes, you know.
Yeah.
They had the running broad jump, standing broad jump, the discus, you know, and had a big steel ball and go
The shot
around
put,
for-
yeah.
See how, the shot put and the hurdles and the 50-yard dash and 100-yard dash and I don't know what all they did. I don't know if they had baseball and all that. Tennis. I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
I just remember doing that, you know. And I have a certificate at home for playing in citywide competition. When I was at McKinley School, I played in the German 5. I had my trombone. And they asked me, these kids were getting up, they wanted to get in a competition.
I didn't know you were German.
So it was called the German 5. And I played the trombone, somebody else had a clarinet, and we had a trumpet
Now I have two pairs of zero.
and a baritone or something, you know, we had to play this music. And it's at McKinney School, high school, junior high school, you know, we got together the night after school and we practiced. And then we had to go downtown by Central and play in a citywide contest before these,
Hopefully not, but I can't get.
supposed to be professional people or something, you know, judges that
Yeah.
judge how good you were. Well, we got a first place exceptional, written right on this certificate, written right on it, and we made a record.
You just can't stand the pressure on there.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah, we made a record. Because, and they sent the record to some school that plays in England. But they never give us each a copy of it. Never got a copy of it.
Wonder why.
We were called the German Five. We
Huh.
played this hoompa hoompa music or something like that. You know what I mean? I think I still got the certificate in a drawer. Or something. Anyway, and this guy wrote on there first. You got the certificate for winning, and then he wrote on the bottom, first exceptional.
Did you ever play the trombone past school?
No,
No.
I didn't. I didn't care nothing about it. I thought I wanted to learn to play an instrument when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't. Because you know why? Because in order to be really, really good, you had to take private lessons. You couldn't get it in a band class in school when there's 20 kids in the class.
Right.
You know, and the teacher's trying to teach everybody to play a different instrument.
Right.
You know, the teacher, Mr. Grady, I believe his name was, had to know how to play all the instruments.
Yeah.
You know, and he had to teach everybody had to learn. You know, but you had to do it in a class situation.
Right.
With music and play and everything. You know, there's no way you could really get good at it
Right.
unless you took private lessons. Anybody that wanted to get really top notch and be good in school with a music, you had to have private.
Yeah.
The same thing because there wasn't anything that they could do, because they didn't do those procedures
And
at that point, but.
when school was out,
They didn't.
they wouldn't catch me around school very much. School was out. They wanted to know if we were playing the marching band. I said, no, I'm not going to play in the marching band. They want to know if I play in the marching band for football games in Central. I said, well, when do they practice it? And they said, well, sometimes you have to skip lunch, and they practice at lunchtime, and once in a while they practice for an hour after school.
Right now,
I said,
at your age, we could go.
not me. I got a job. I'm making 10 cents an hour in a grocery store. Not me. I'm not doing that. And I'm not skipping lunch to go out there and walk around in the sun and practice. No, I wouldn't do it.
Besides that, sometimes you got a free pop at the grocery store, right?
Yeah, I could have all the pop I wanted. Right?
It's caused a lot of other problems.
Or I eat a raw potato once in a while.
I just try not to.
And that was my Uncle Bill's store on Fenton Road. But I didn't work for Uncle Bill. I worked for Joe Kellen. But he bought the store from my Uncle Bill and Aunt Zelda.
Grocery stores back then, they were a lot smaller too, weren't they? Yeah.
Oh my! I could show you the building still there.
Oh, really?
You wouldn't believe it. It's a little teeny thing. It doesn't
Summer
look
lot?
like it's much wider than this.
You mean Summer Lots?
Huh?
Summer Lots?
No. Oh, it was down the street from Summer Lots, right on Fenton Road. Oh, they were a little store.
Where is it? Where is it now then? Where is it?
It's still over there on Fenton Road by between Leland and Crawford. The building is.
Oh.
They sell used tires or
I
something
wonder
there or
if
something now.
was McKay's Market still there? The building? Where McKay's Market used to be? That was just back down by the viaduct down there, just down a little way.
Oh,
from
that
the
was
viaduct.
a long ways from where.
Like Grand Funk Railroad?
Yeah, by Grand Front Railroad, yeah. Yeah, just that's McKay's, because my grandma used to walk there. That's where she was. Their grocery shop in McKay's Market.
And there was a gas station.
There's a meat counter. Basically, all it was is you walk in and there's small rows with groceries. At the back, there's a meat counter.
Right, that's what we were. That's what I worked.
Huh.
My Uncle Bill's. My Uncle Bill owned that grocery store, and he made enough money. You know, he owned the grocery store and that great big house beside it, and he bought that property on Long Lake. You know, he made money.
So most of the people probably just walk to the store then, huh?
Yeah.
It's probably just in the neighborhood.
A
Yeah.
lot.
It's a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, neighborhood stores, yeah.
And down by that viaduct he's talking about, there was a mobile gas station.
Yep.
It only had like, just before you got to the viaduct, you had to turn up
Did she make you a
on the
demo?
right.
Yep.
There was just room for, I don't know, I don't think it was even as big as this. And it wasn't a grease rack or nothing, you know, to change tires enough for a car. Just, I don't think they even changed oil there. I don't remember. But I know it was a mobile gas station. And when you got gas and went out like this, you just like that right underneath the
You
viaduct.
talking where the train bridge is right
It
there?
was right
Yeah.
beside it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost just built right into the
Huh.
bank. And the guy,
Well, for a while, I think you.
the guy had his leg cut off short and he had
Let you talk to anybody, so it would just be going to church and
a steel thing about,
talk to anybody.
must be about that square, and his leg was harnessed on top of that. And then it went down with four
So he didn't- he said,
points
"Well,
and,
I might as well stay home."
like a rock, on a rocker on the bottom with rubber on the bottom of it, so he could walk on it, you know, that's the way he walked, on that big thing on the bottom
Huh.
half of his leg, run that gas station. Well, that's been a long time ago.
But it's been,
That's the railroad that says Grand Funk on it. It's the
Yeah.
Grand Funk Railroad.
There was a gas
Yeah.
station right tight against that hill by that
Right.
viaduct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no,
get you going.
here we
You
go.
know, we used to walk up to the grocery store. And my grandma would give
Oh,
grandma would give me 25 cents. And my grandpa would come up to me and say, "Did your grandma give you any money for the grocery store?" And my grandpa wanted me to lie to him. He always wanted me to lie.
So
And I'd
awful.
say, "No, he didn't give me no." He gave me, "Oh, here's a quarter. Give me another quarter." Knowing full well, or he already saw me get it, you know. But
That's a
then
lot
he'd
of
say, "Oh, maybe you should buy your brothers and sisters some stuff candy too." Well, you can go in there for 25 cents.
You fill a sack.
You fill a sack full of penny candy, 25 pieces. You got 25 pieces of candy in that
Some were
sack.
2 for a penny.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. Yeah, so I felt, and sure enough, I go back and I give my brother and stuff. You know, I never remembered my sister or my brother giving me any candy. Ever. Okay? I always shared. They never gave me nothing. We took turns staying at my grandma's house, right there on 12th Street. Right there, Brooks and 12th.
Oh, he wants to be under there.
In the corner, that house is gone.
You can't, man, you can't think of buying candy 2 for a penny, but it didn't.
Oh, yeah. Just all that penny candy. It was just all that stuff like that. Yeah. Packs of gum.
We used to get
5
fish,
cents for a pack of gum.
we used to get fish and chips. I mean, a big plate full for 65 cents, and it cost 10 cents for the Coke
Wow.
when we first got married.
no, the.
And once in a while on Friday night, we'd go out for fish and chips. It cost $1.50 for 2 orders of fish and chips and 2 Cokes. And we thought we were big spenders.
Well, but that back then, you were lucky to make $30 to $50 a week. That was your whole salary, is $30 to $50. My dad always said, if I could just make $50 a week, we'd be on Easy Street.
Man.
When we got married, I had a 52 Chevrolet coupe,
Trying to exercise.
and we went to the grocery store to get our first bunch of groceries, because you had to have,
Today I started
you know,
off with,
sugar and flour and salt. We had to have everything, okay?
insurance companies.
We filled the back seat and the floor and the trunk for $16. $16.
My boys probably ate $50 worth today.
And that was
Yeah.
everything.
And I was doing the treadmill.
Now a big beef roast cost you
Yeah.
$16.
Yep.
We spent $16. We filled the car.
You can't,
Yeah.
you're sucking that in and out. I mean, you know.
Yeah, we spend a couple $100 every time we go to the store.
I'm doing it sideways like this. I have to do it
Understand.
sideways.
And that's a week, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
These kids eat. This morning I was looking for something to eat, and I guess I could have made myself some eggs, but there was like nothing else in the house, and I was like, where? Today was grocery day. Leah went and got groceries, but the day before you get groceries, there's like, when I got there, the cupboard was bare.
Yeah.
You know, like there's just nothing because they eat it all. I even tried to have a peanut butter sandwich yesterday, and I couldn't. There was no peanut butter. I was like, come on. Oh, like.
You buy the peanut butter and probably.
Yeah, it's a big old jar. Yeah, and I'm like, it's empty. I'm like,
I remember my dad was running that garage.
That's actually work.
There were times when we didn't have supper till my dad come home from work and go to the store and get groceries every day. But that wasn't money.
wow.
But you know, back then we ate different than we eat now. But when my mom and dad, when I was a kid, we had a lot of times where you had like macaroni and tomatoes for dinner. That was their dinner, macaroni and tomatoes.
Yeah, one dish meals.
Yeah, macaroni and tomatoes, or maybe macaroni and cheese,
Showing these people how
or
to do it.
lots of hamburgers. You had hamburger and everything. You hardly ever had steak. You know, you'd have chicken once a week. But a lot of times you'd have meals without meat. Beans, a lot of them, like bean soup or beans with a little bit of ham put in it or something like that, you know, that'd be your meal, you know?
We couldn't even have mashed potatoes except once in a while on Sunday, cause they had to put milk in it to mash potatoes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say potatoes should have been cheap, but
Well,
Yeah.
my other grandfather got paid in potatoes when he went back during Depression times, you know. He had to go work, and sometimes he'd come back with just nothing but a bag of potatoes. That's what his pay was.
wow.
We never even had popcorn or anything at home. No, I can't remember having potato chips till I was probably 14 or something like that.
Wow.
Had a dime to spend for a bag of potato chips.
Well, hardly anybody went out to dinner.
No, you didn't do things. We never ever had pop in the house. I can never ever remember having a pop at home.
Yeah, see, now where I
Or
went,
potato
there's no
chips.
separate rooms.
If I wanted a snack the night before I went to bed,
Yeah, so it's not the
I'd,
same.
I'd get a stalk of celery or a carrot or a raw potato or something. I could have that, but it didn't cost much. Well, no such thing. And we didn't have candy in the house, but once in a while my dad would sneak out in the kitchen on a Sunday afternoon and get the cocoa out and mix it with some sugar, make some fudge. My mother caught him. I remember one Sunday, he was out there and he had the door shut. And she was reading Saturday Evening Post or something, you know, paying much attention. And I went out there to see where my dad went, and the kitchen door was closed. So I went out, opened the door, and my dad turned around, looked, you know, and I went in, I shut the door, and my dad was gonna make some fudge. And pretty soon my mother got to wondering where those guys are at. Come out there and caught my dad mixing the sugar and the cocoa and stuff up to make fudge. Boy, there was war.
Cause sugar, you couldn't get sugar.
Ah.
Couldn't get sugar.
Yeah, cause during
He
the war time, you know.
And he was,
You got in trouble,
yeah, boy, oh boy, there was a big row. And finally she said, well, you already mixed it with the cocoa. Now we're not gonna put it in our coffee. And might as well go ahead and make your little bit of candy. So she, it was a bad day. I remember that.
Yeah, that's during the war.
We had rations, we had books with rations.
Yeah,
You could only,
stamps, yeah.
so many,
Coupons.
you had to rip this little thing out of there and you could use that, and you could, that's what the rationing was. You could get all the sugar you wanted for all those coupons, but you had to have a coupon to get the sugar when you went to the store, see?
Yeah.
You know, each family was only allowed so much.
Right.
And they'd go to the store and you'd hand them that book, that ration book, and they would rip the little coupon out.
So so basically it was you still paid for it, but they had to
But you could only have
so much, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you
Same with gasoline or anything else.
yeah, and you couldn't get butter, all you got was lard, and they give you some yellow dye and flavoring, like a little packet, and you mix that in there with I don't know, what Crisco grease or whatever it was. You stirred it all up, made it yellow, called it butter. It was oleo, called it butter, and it was oleo, you know. And you had to put the color in it yourself, otherwise it would just be like a white grease, you know.
No, you got fat out of it at
So
least.
so it was yellow like butter, and you put that on your toast or whatever.
I need to give you some fat in your diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, back then in the 40s, like that, a lot of people didn't have vehicles. They used public transportation. A lot of guys went to work by buses, took the bus to work. My grandfather took the bus to work for years and years and years. Didn't take the bus to work.
Well, a lot of those neighborhoods down around like where Chevy in the Hole and all that, those were built because of the factory, right? People just
Right.
lived right there and walked
Yeah,
to
you can walk
work.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
guys go walk to work. They're factory houses. Yeah. Whole subdivisions were built that way.
Yeah.
And then they.
Who paid for them? Who built them originally?
You had to pay.
Well, I know, but when they were built for the workers. So who fronted it?
well, probably started with, they got, GM started to get built, had. one
GM built some of that
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff. you know.
GM houses, they call it GM houses. But then they go down and recruit. GM would recruit from down in Missouri and all those places and say, hey, we got jobs up here, you wanna come up? You know?
Well, that's
A lot
where
of these guys took off, that's why you call it the little areas
Yeah.
around, like Little Missouri, okay, Kentucky area. I mean, you had got groups of people that came from all those. I think everybody came from Kennett, Missouri. My grandfather came from Kennett, Missouri, and Virgil came from somewhere around Missouri there, Kennett, someplace. You know, they all came from all those areas down here.
Like that little spot on Fenton Road they call Little Missouri.
Yeah.
We lived in Little Missouri when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's why right over in there and off of, in that area off Fenton Road and Enfield Road and around there, all them little bitty houses.
Yeah.
That's why the people came from down south, they come up here and they earn a few dollars and they managed to get a lot for $50 and built a little bitty house.
Yep.
That's why all them little houses are in there.
Yeah. Same with the berry patch. My dad bought, he bought a brand new house in the berry patch. Put to the factory houses, okay? And they're all built the same. Every one of those houses were the same exact shape, you know. There's a box Cape Cod, but they had basements. A lot of them didn't have basements. Those had basements in berry patch there. Most of them did, not all of them, but most of them had basements. And they go, my dad said, we bought that house, he paid $19,000 when he bought it.
is the house still there?
Oh yeah, still there.
What was the address?
1510 Blueberry Lane.
MacArthur built a bunch of them houses and the guy that worked for MacArthur, he went out on his own and started building houses. Made a lot of money. I can't remember his name right now. My grandpa worked with him. My grandpa worked for Mr. MacArthur. My grandpa was the finish carpenter.
You know what's surprising is that those houses there were all factory workers. Then when Westgate was built, that was all the professional people lived in Westgate. Okay, those were the rich people's houses. Okay, there's doctors, all kinds of doctors and stuff living there. I had a doctor, one of the kids, his dad was a doctor, Dr. Wolf. Okay, well I went to his house when I was a little boy, about 5 or 6 years old. Went to his house because his son was my age and we played together. And so we went to his house. He had a 2-story about the size of ours, basically. But that was rich.
Mm-hmm.
That's rich people had those houses. Okay.
So this would have been a mansion back then, huh?
A lot of
Yeah.
doctors,
Yeah.
a lot of doctors' offices were hooked right onto their houses.
Right.
And like they took the garage and made it into
Yeah.
doctors' offices.
Yeah.
And they would have a little bit bigger house and it would be brick. You know?
Right. Yeah.
It would be something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the doctor's office was right next to it, because there was no insurance stuff back then. You paid for me with the
Yeah.
doctor, you paid, you know?
It's crazy. This house would have been huge back
Oh, yeah,
then.
This
Yeah.
would have been a huge house back then. That's been one of the rich ones. Yeah. One of the rich people used to live here. Yeah, remember you had whole families in 800 square foot homes, basically 800 to 1,000 square. It was basically 800 because the attic, they built in the attic. They built a room up there to put more kids because there's only 2 bedrooms down below and this little kitchen, little living room, whatever. Just all together, probably 900 square foot total, the whole thing. And
4 or
they had
5 kids.
They had five kids. Yeah, we had a person that had 8 kids.
Yeah.
They had
Wow.
8 kids. They had people. They had kids in the basement, kids in the bedrooms. You know, kids in that little upstairs thing. They had 8 children. They lived there, raised a whole family. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
used
were.
to have. I'll tell you what. You used to have the best neighborhood though.
Yeah.
The kids.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Like, parents let the kids just out and play. Go out and
At
play.
night,
At night. Oh
kick
yeah.
the can, any
Oh, yeah.
over, and run up and down the street. You didn't have to worry about anybody chasing the kids around.
No.
Everybody's doors were open,
Yeah.
windows were open.
And everybody. I'll tell you what.
You visited with your neighbors.
Yeah, everybody was watching for everybody else. I had that one guy. I got in a fight with this kid, and I was 6 years old or 5 years old. I got in a fight and bloodied his nose. He lived on another street. All of a sudden, I'm talking to my mom, and Steve Clarich is with me. He's an older kid that was with me, but almost my sister, year younger than my sister. He's with me, and we're talking to my mom, and she's sitting on the porch, and his car pulls up right in front of our house. This guy gets out, he's got this little boy, my age, bloody nose, blood around all over his face, and he's dragging him out. He says, "Which one of these, Mike? That big kid, he's the one that hit you. He's the one that." Nobody said, "No, it's this one." This kid that's dragging is bigger than me. Okay, no, it's him. And he said, "Your son, bloody my son, look what he did." And he starts screaming, yelling at my mom. My mom's sitting on the porch. Well, down the street, and these houses are close together, so it's not like down the street. I mean, you can put three houses in your lot, okay? They're 50-foot lots. So 3 houses down, was Chuck Clarich was sitting down there, and he used to be a weightlifter. He was just muscular, short, stocky, but his shoulders about that wide. He was sitting on the porch with his wife. He come right off his porch and come right down those stairs, man. And he's coming walking over. That guy looked over and saw him coming, and he got his wife. "Come on, let's go." He got back in the car and took off. He come down, says, "You got a problem, the sheriff? You got a problem?" No, she said, "No, I don't think so." Well, my dad got home from work, and Mom was telling him about that. He says, "Where does this guy live?" He said, "Lives on the other side of the street." Well, show me where he lives. I just want to talk to him. And my mom said, "No, you don't. You just don't want to talk to him. You want to punch him." My dad did too.
Want to go fight him?
Well, my dad was, at that time, I didn't realize my dad was younger than
Yeah.
a lot younger.
Yeah.
He had 3 children. The oldest one, Terry, was probably 7.
Yeah.
You know, so it's 7 and under. You know, so my dad was probably 26, 27 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and he just wanted to go talk to the guy.
You know where Montgomery Ward used to be downtown?
Yeah.
Well, back behind that, and the next street back, was Old South Junior, which was a great big high school. Right down in the middle of downtown.
Downtown, huh?
That's where my dad went to high school.
Huh.
And my grandma used to tell me how my dad would have to fight every day.
Yeah.
Go to school and come back home. There's always some bully waiting for somebody coming by, walk to school, you know. He didn't walk to school, walk back.
Oh, yeah.
Or no buses or nothing.
No.
Right.
And they lived out there on Fenton Road, and he had to walk downtown to school, you know. And she would say, remember, my dad told me, he said, you know, because we went to church, there's somebody's always laying for you. And you'd have to fight some bully every day when you went to school.
My dad fought a lot too.
Go down there. He told me where he went to school. I seen a picture of it one time someplace. I don't remember where it's.
What's there now?
I don't know, parking lot, or buildings or whatever. I don't know, but it was actually, the ground was kind of mounded up a little bit, and the school looked like a big old courthouse or something with like a big clock on top or something like that, you know. It's called Old South Junior. Well, that's when my dad went to school.
Huh.
But you know, it was tore down long
Yeah.
time ago. And I know they told me he did. My grandma told me your dad would be sitting there in his chair, tying his shoes, getting ready to walk to school in the morning, bent over, praying while he was praying after he ate, asking the Lord to help him. And he'd walk off to school. He'd have to have a fight before he got to school.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad went to about 4 different schools and 5 different schools. Every time the rent came due, they couldn't pay it. They had to move. So they moved to a different school district all the time. But I was in and out of schools, different schools all the time. And he said every time he went to different school, he had to fight his way through it to make. Once you establish yourself as you can take care of yourself, and then kids left you alone. That was it.
You were one of the game.
Yeah. He said so.
But you got to be one of the
The
game.
last school he went to, he says he had his lunchbox. They couldn't afford lunchbox, but he had an old briefcase he found. Put his lunch in. And so he carried that briefcase to a new school. He says, I knew as soon as I walked into that schoolyard with that briefcase in my hand, I was going to have to fight. Sure enough, he says, some guy comes up, he's right in bed. He says, you got to where you didn't talk about it anymore, you just haul off and hit him. Yeah, he says, just drop the case and poof, get started. You know, once you got that, everybody saw you weren't going to take it, they left you alone. Yeah. They just fight all the time. My dad and my uncle, the older boy was teasing my aunt Joy because she had epilepsy, and so this guy was a big older than they were, and I think Uncle Gary was like 15. My dad was 13, and this guy was like 18. Was teasing his. So they're gonna get him. So they went up, and Gary, my dad went to get him. And they got in a fight with this guy, and they're hauling on him. And Gary grabbed this guy, went down on the ground like this, and held him on. Gary's on his back, had this guy like this, and the guy's head was here. And my dad was up on top of both of them. Okay. And Gary says, "Hit him, Don! Hit him!" And Gary had his arm, so the guy couldn't protect himself. So my dad hauled up and wham! The guy moved his head and hit Gary right in the face. And my dad's dad had come hearing about the fight, and he's come out and watched like that. And the guy, Gary let go of the guy took off. Okay, because he didn't want both boys could handle him. Okay, and my grandfather, I guess, was laying on the ground, rolling, laughing so hard because my dad hauled up. Gary said, "Hit him, Don, hit him!" And whap! And the guy moved his head.
Like talking to Laura, she said,
In the face.
And that was
Funny to know.
that was Paul Pagan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Uncle Gary, he's my dad. You hear the different stories about that. Each one you get a different story.
Yeah.
My Gary and my dad, you should get a different story about it. My Gary says Dad did it on purpose.
Why would he do that?
I don't know.
I know that once I'm done nursing, it'll be the same.
That- When I went to Alaska that time to go fishing, I fished with Lynn. They had before I got there, they had just bunkhouses with double bunks, and these guys were just in rows in these bunkhouses.
She said they can just.
And Cliff was up there a couple years, well, more than that. Let's see, Cliff was married when I went up there, so he was up there about 5-6 years before that. And somebody in that bunkhouse would start a fight every night. Those fishermen would come in, and they're rough and tumble, and they'd be in there after fishing all day, and somebody would say something to somebody, "I told you to stay out of my bunk," and they'd grab somebody and pick him up and throw him into somebody else's bunk, and that guy would throw him out, and the first thing you know, everybody in the bunkhouse was all fighting each other. When it finally got over with, they were all had bloody noses and
Tired up,
like that, and all just laughing and having all buddies and having fun. Go back to bed. Next night they do it all over again. When Cliff went up there, he told me they told him to pick out a bunk. So he picked out a bunk on top, a top bunk, because they knew everybody wanted the bottom one, and it was empty. So he, I don't know, threw his extra shirt and stuff up there, and he said, "Well, I guess this is where I'll sleep with my sleeping bag." And got up there, and some guy come in there half drunk and wanted to know what Cliff was doing, sleeping in his bed. Well, Cliff wasn't very big, but he was mouthy, and so that guy was gonna grab Cliff, yank him out of that bed, and Ole, and I can't remember if I meant Ole or not, but anyway, so Ole was this great big Pollock, and he got out of bed, he knew what was wrong, and he asked this other guy, "Well, what's the problem here, And so this young guy, he's new here, and he drove up there and got my bed, and I'm gonna show him a thing or two, and he said, "Well, when you get through showing him a thing or two, you're gonna have to show me a thing or two when you get done with him, because I'm next in line." And so that ended the fight. There was no fight, that was the end of it. Cliff told me about that. He said, when Big Ol' Ole told him, "I'm next in line, when you get through with him, I'm next," he said, they left me alone after that. And when I went up there a few years later, they had a brand new bunkhouse, and it was just, and there weren't bunks, there were just 2 single beds in a room, nice showers and bathrooms and everything, and so, but just two of us in a room, and it was pretty nice. It was all new. The year I went there was all new.
Yeah.
Lynn and I got there, and Lynn took me up to the
Oh, I never had to put bumpers on my car.
you wouldn't call it a cafeteria, but anyways, it was just rows of picnic tables. You walk down the center, and it was like on a boardwalk about so high, and then there was picnic tables. Just room to get between the picnic tables, and everybody crowded in and set up picnic tables, and they come down the middle. When everybody got sat down and you filled it up, where you ate there, they passed out bowls of food and platters of meat. And everybody on the end of the table got first choice, and the guy on the end down there, after you went through about 10 guys on the side, you know, these picnic tables, the guy in the end got what was left, you know, that's just the way it was.
Huh.
You didn't order anything, they just passed it out
Yeah.
like bowls full there at the cannery. And that's the way it was. But anyway, I got there and Len said, well, let's go up to the back door by the kitchen. He said, I'm pretty good friends with the kitchen. It was dark, so we went up to the back door and Len knocked on the door. The guy comes to the door and asked me what he wanted. Oh, it's you, McMillan, come on in. We went in there. He was in there cooking and baking and stuff for the tomorrow, you know. He gave us a whole brand new hot peach pie to take back to the room. So we had hot peach pie that night. It was pretty good. That cook gave us a whole peach pie to take back. Len was pretty good friends with a lot of those guys up there.
Yeah.
Anyways, we went to the back door, the cafeteria, where they were in there baking and cooking stuff for the next day, you know. He gave us a whole brand new peach pie to take back with us.
This is the hand I'm trying to be.
Yeah, those are hers.